worried are you about the Warriors?
I'm not worried. I really am not worried because I don't anticipate that this will continue. That's not to take anything away from the Rockets, who James Harden, I'll leave that to Max. He was sensational. He showed up again last night. Obviously, P.J. Tucker showed up big time as well. He deserves a lot of credit. But I'm going to look at the Golden State Warriors, and I'm going to tell you that I don't anticipate this continuing. When I look at Steph Curry, who was struggling from three-point range, even though he finished with 30, I don't anticipate that that will last. I look at Klay Thompson. There's an APB out for him right now, by the way. I spoke to the cops. There's an APB out for Klay Thompson. The basketball cops worldwide, we're all looking for Klay Thompson because, damn it, we can't find him. We don't even know who this dude is. It's just unimaginable that he would be as bad as he's been. But that has been the case. And Kevin Durant needs some help. I don't anticipate that with two of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball, as far as I'm concerned, that something like this will continue. So I'm not caught up in it at all, Max Kellerman. I'm not feeling what everybody else is feeling. I think that Golden State wins this series. I'm not overly concerned because of how they've gone down. I don't believe this will continue. I'd be more worried if Klay and Steph were hitting shots and still the Rockets managed to beat them. I'm not worried about them continuing to miss shots, particularly when they get back to the Oracle.
I am very worried about the Golden State Warriors because there's a big difference this year from last year. And let's not forget, last season, Game 7 at Houston, they went 0 for 27, the Rockets did at one point. They missed 27 threes in a row. And still it was a single-digit loss to the mighty Golden State Warriors. And that was with James Harden choking and no Chris Paul on the floor at all, who was hurt, didn't have him. And yet it still came down to that. This season, Stephen A., in these playoffs, they're knotted up 2-2. The point differential is much, much closer than it was last year, meaning the Rockets, it looks like, got better. And James Harden, a couple nights ago, they're up 3 in overtime. He hits a shot to put the game out of reach. I stated yesterday, it's a little overblown how clutch that was. It's not like they were down 3 and he hit the shot, or it was a game winner. They're up 3 already. He had his chest out. Okay, but I said it might give him some confidence. What happened last night? James Harden, for the first time in his career, as far as I'm concerned, in an absolute must-win game against a better team, they had to have it. James Harden was huge. And by the way, I know he missed a free throw late that would have put the game out of reach, and still it was a 3-point game. That happens. Like KD and Steph also had dead-on looks at 3, and that happens. I'm not saying James Harden has to hit every shot, but whoa, he hit a lot of them, and they needed him most. And I'm telling you right now, if James Harden is that dude, I've been saying it all along, if he can learn to be the MVP in the playoffs the way he is in the regular season, the Rockets can beat the Warriors. Stephen A., why wouldn't the Warriors be worried? They've now played the Rockets in their last 11 playoff games. They're up 1 game out of 11. It's 6-5, brother.
So what? Mere bag of shells. Mere bag of shells. I mean, the bottom line is who the first to 4 wins the series. That's the bottom line. I don't want to hear how close it was, 1 more win or whatever. Do you recall the Houston Rockets in the last 5 years beating the Golden State Warriors in the postseason? I don't recall. I recall it being close. I recall it coming down to the wire. I recall us being, just fascinated with what we're seeing. But the outcome was the same, and I anticipate that will be the case. Yeah, I said it in Toyota Center last night with people heckling me and some folks wanting to throw stuff at me. I'm going to say it on national television right now. Mere bag of shells, I'm not concerned. I will tell you this, though. When I watch Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, Max, let's keep our eyes on something here. I haven't heard anybody bring this up. Let me tell you something. When I look at a Steph Curry, for example, and I see him on the floor, and I see Houston repeatedly trying to put him in pick-and-roll situations, I see a guy that's highly tentative and reluctant to guard James Harden and potentially Eric Gordon. Why is that? Because he doesn't want to get himself in foul trouble. What's the Achilles heel, or what's the detriment of that? The detriment of that is that you're so preoccupied with trying to prove that you're some kind of defender better than we all give you credit for, that you've forgotten about your offense to the degree that you should be focused on it. The bottom line is, weeks ago, Steve Kerr is on the record stating that he actually, because Steve Kerr cares about defense, he actually told Steph Curry, let him score. They wrote an article about how he was telling Steph Curry, let him score. Why? Because guess why? You don't want to get this man in foul trouble.
And he's been in
you
foul
need him
trouble.
on the floor, and he's been in foul trouble. You want him on the floor. You want his offense potent. I think Steph Curry is smart enough to remedy that. I think he does in Game 5. No way in hell I believe that Klay Thompson's going to shoot 1 for 6 from three-point range. We shall see.
Look, you brought up two players. James Harden, I mentioned him. You also brought up P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker, who is, anyone who's dealt with P.J. Tucker has nothing but good things to say about him. And
Same
he
here.
is, you could see, you want a guy like that in the locker room. You want a guy like that on the floor. He can do a lot of things to help you, include grab those 10 boards. He was dominant on the glass, Stephen A. It gave the Rockets 10 extra possessions, and the Rockets were able to beat a better team as a result of those extra possessions. The Rockets are not as talented as the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are more talented, but the Rockets place more good bets in terms of the way they play the game than the Warriors, and it's allowed them to kind of tread water and just keep afloat against the Warriors for the last postseason and a half. And I'll tell you this. I know Chris Paul is not an MVP caliber player quite, and maybe he is in decline. But if you mean to tell me having Chris Paul is not going to make you better, I'm telling you you're wrong. The Rockets, with Chris Paul this postseason, are a bigger threat to the Warriors than they were without him last year when he couldn't play in that Game 7. And that came down to a Game 7 last year.
My assertions have absolutely nothing to do with Chris Paul. It has everything to do with who I know the Golden State Warriors to be. You keep bringing up the fact that, Chris Paul was out the last 2 games of that series last year. I keep bringing up the fact that Iguodala was out the entire series.